What's up YouTube? Brian here, back again with another high-end rod review, and today we are going to be looking at this bad boy, the Shimano Expired 7.3 extra heavy bait casting rod. But before that, if you could, please give me a like, please give me a subscribe, smack the bell, whatever you need to do, and also down on the Instagram, check me out at Punch Fishing. I post a lot of content on there, a lot of stories, a lot of on the water stuff. So yeah, give me a like and a follow on the Instagram, and please hit like and subscribe on this video if you are enjoying it. I have done a ton of rod reviews over the years, and this is going to be another one. So here we go. A couple things about this rod. Now, the Shimano X73 Extra Heavy has been in the Expride line since it launched. I was this close many times to buying the old version of this before Shimano rebooted the Exprides into, I think they're calling these the Expride Bs. Whatever, this is the new version with the monocoque handle. It's an upgrade from the previous version. They made some fit and finish changes. They added the monocoque handle that we saw debut in the Zodius line. And so, you know, it's got a little refresh in the last year. And I picked up three of these new Exprides. I have the 7.3 Extra Heavy. I have the 7.2 Medium Heavy Glass, which is like my favorite chatterbait rod. I sold my old one and now I just use that one. And I also picked up this guy, the 7.2 Medium Light Spinning Rod, which I'm going to do a completely separate video on very soon. So stay tuned for the 7.2 Medium Light Spinning Rod review. That being said, we're going to jump right into this particular rod. Now, this rod has always had a reputation as being an amazing frog rod, and absolutely, yes, 100%, this is a really good frog rod. And I'm going to tell you why, there's a couple reasons why this is a great frog rod, but also, if you notice, I don't have a frog tied onto this rod at the moment. I have a flipping setup. This thing is a ridiculously fun flipping rod, and I'm going to show you a video clip in a few minutes about showing why that is, because this thing is a powerhouse in a 7.3 rod. So, a couple of the things that I love about this rod. If you have not used a Shimano Expride, especially this new version, the fit and finish on these rods for under $300 is ridiculous. These are just completely beautiful rods. They look like they should be more expensive. This is still one of the best under $300 values in bass fishing. Just the fit and finish and overall balance of these rods, how crisp they are, how light they are in the hand. You have a really hard time finding a more compelling rod for that like $280 price point. There's stuff in like the $220 that this thing smokes, and there's rods over $300 that this thing smokes. It's just a banger of a deal at the price point for the fit and finish, just the overall quality. This thing looks trick. If you put this up to most rods, in the looks department alone, this thing is going to win hands down. But not only the looks, these rods perform really well. I want to talk about this rod some more on its own. This thing has a really high rating. It goes up to, I believe, 2 ounces. Yeah, this thing is rated up to 2 ounces. It is an extra heavy. I'm going to talk about the action just real quick to get this out of the way. This thing is a legit broomstick. The tip, though, when you have a bait on the end of it, like a frog or a flipping application, there's some give to the tip. It's got a little bit of a tip, but it takes a lot. Like, this is me pushing down on it pretty hard. This is a legit extra fast, but it should be for an extra heavy, right? So, yeah, pretty stout tip. Incredibly, I mean, I'm really, just to bend it this much, I'm really pushing on this thing right now. Like this, and when you get into this, there's no moving it. So when you get into this part of the rod from here to between my hands right here, this is just straight meat. Like, this thing has gobs of power. But it's got tons of power, and it only weighs 4.48 ounces. So basically 4.5 ounces for a rod that has this much ridiculous power is amazing. I actually like throwing this thing for like flipping applications, heavy flipping. I've been flipping 3/4 ounce to 1 ounce on this thing into really thick, nasty, heavy cover. And it is a pleasure. This thing fishes and feels like a medium heavy, but it's a badass extra heavy. So this thing feels like a lighter rod. This feels just like your average everyday medium heavy 7'3" when you hold it in your hand. But the amount of power it has is insane for the size and the weight. So obviously Fit and finish is amazing. The weight is just sick. 4.5 ounces on this thing. A 2-ounce rating on this thing is great. It absolutely throws the half-ounce frogs really well. So the bronze eyes and even the mega bass, big gabbets, and just basically all your typical normal size frogs. This thing is amazing at. It can throw the smaller frogs like the Kyra frog or Terminator Juniors, although it's still a little stiff for that. I actually kind of like throwing more of a medium heavy for those kind of frogs anyways. But in a pinch, you absolutely can throw those frogs on this. It's not 100% out of the realm. I like throwing frogs on this thing way better than my TS Poker. So I have the really expensive $500 Mega Bass swim bait rod, the TS Poker, which is kind of known as being a really good frog rod. But this thing in the hand is lighter. It is balanced better. So I know you guys all like me when I do the finger trick, but this isn't really fair because I have this weight still on the back. But man, in hand, this thing balances fantastically. It is so stupid light. Right now I'm running the Shimano Corrado 150, so not the K, the smaller Corrado that came out a little while ago. I will say this is not the greatest frog rod, the Corrado 150 MGL. I should have a different reel on this because if you have a heavier frog and you make a bomb cast in the wind, you can almost spool this thing. So this actually does not have the proper line capacity, in my opinion, for frogging. Especially if you got to chop some line off in a day. Like say you get a bad bird's nest and you got to knock some line off. You're probably going to spool this thing if you have to get rid of a little bit of line. So Corrado 150, not the greatest frog rod in that regard. But for flipping, perfectly fine. This is the 7-speed, not the 8-speed. I'm running 50-pound Seagar Smackdown braid, which is a great braid. I've been really happy with Smackdown. I've been using it for 2 years for flipping and frogging. No problems, no breaks. Really good abrasion resistance. Really happy with the Smackdown. So 50-pound Smackdown, no leader. This is my exact flipping setup that I have on it right now. I literally just took this out of my boat and I used it on a tournament 2 days ago. I double up on the bobber stops. I have a 3/4 ounce weight, and then I have a 3/0 VMC HD ringed hook. Now, I love the ringed hook for flipping. The hook sets you get on these things are bonkers. The hook just goes straight up into the fish's nose. You're not the land ratio on the ringed hook versus a snelled hook, in my opinion, is night and day. I used to snell everything. Always have a flipping hook with a snell. Look how much action this thing has just from me holding it. Like look at that hook and how freely it moves around. You really don't miss hook sets on this thing. It is impossible with the ringed hook. So if you're not flipping with the ringed hook, try it. Also, just keep in mind, if you do get the VMC ringed hooks, you need to get the HD version, which is a much thicker gauge than the regular ringed hook. If you flip with the regular ringed hook, you're probably going to bend that sucker out in heavy cover, where you want to get the HD version, thicker gauge. Pro tip. Anyway, I'm going to show you guys a clip real soon here where I was flipping the nastiest of cover in Wisconsin, which is always going to be pads. Pads and reeds are just the hardest cover to not only hook fish in, but get them actually out. And the power that this rod has for a 7.3, I mean, this can totally replace a big 7-Eleven flipping stick for most applications. If you kayak guys are looking for a flipping stick that isn't a gigantic, huge-ass rod, this should absolutely be on your radar. Or if you're a bank fisherman where you want to frog and flip in both applications and not have to carry around like a giant flipping stick, also amazing. This thing fits in your truck really well. I know if you guys have a car or truck, fitting a 7-Eleven flipping stick is kind of a pain in the butt. Here you go, 7.3 flipping stick right here. So I'm going to shoot over to my laptop and we're going to go to this video. Now this is pretty shallow. It's probably about 2 feet of water here, but these pads were dense and there was a ton of bass in this little stretch of pads. I think I caught 4 fish out of this, really stacked area. And then I'm flipping a craw tube, a big bite craw tube, which is just a really great plastic to throw on an EWG because you can bury that hook in the body of the plastic and it comes in and out of the cover really clean, never hooks onto stuff. So if you're flipping all day into really nasty stuff, consider throwing the craw tube because of how clean it goes in and out of cover. Anyway, here we go. Oop. Let's try that again. Here we go. Flipped in, bite, and wham.
That's fish in there.
I was very scared about getting this fish out because it was way back in those pads by that reeds.
Okay. Is it getting out? As this comes out, it's a miracle.
If it comes out, it's a miracle. Because it was way back there. And I was pulling in a lot of grass and weeds with this fish. And the Expride was a champ.
Oh, this is a big one too. Holy crap. Whoa. Dude, giant.
So on this particular lake, 3-pounders are rare.
This is a monster on this lake. Holy cow. Here's the biggest fish I ever caught on this lake before.
Which is true. So out in Wisconsin, you know, some of these lakes, catching anything north of 3 pounds is great. That lake is a ton of 1 and 2 pounders. So catching that monster in the pads with this rod was so much fun. So as you could see, this rod is totally powerful enough to grab bigger fish. I mean, 3.5 pounds maybe not be a big fish out where you guys are, but in these northwest Wisconsin lakes, that's a great fish. And especially pulling out of that cover with all that slop and that rod, I was leaning on that thing. Like I was using it as a straight winch to get that fish out, and it had no problem. So I really don't have anything negative to say about this rod. The 7.3 Extra Heavy is really great. Definitely a flipping, definitely a frogging rod. You could even maybe throw a little A-rig on this thing if you have an A-rig and you're in a pinch to throw an Alabama rig. This could absolutely do it. If you got to drag a heavy football jig in a pinch, you could absolutely do this. If you're even really in trouble and you need something to throw a Carolina rig on with like a 3/4 ounce, you could probably do that pretty well with this too. However, its bread and butter is absolutely as a heavy cover flipping stick and as a heavy cover frogging stick. Maybe you want to pick a different reel that's a deeper spool if you're going to frog than the MGL 150. Maybe just throw a regular Corrado K or the new Corrado M that's coming out, or even like an SLX or a DC or something like that. But anyway, nothing bad to say. They did put the hook keeper down here, which I don't mind because I have a boat, but I know a lot of kayak folks don't like where that hook keeper is because when you put your rod into your holders on your kayak, it sucks. It's a lot nicer to have the hook keeper up here. But, I'm flipping and frogging, and it's easy just to hook the bait onto the butt down there. So, unfortunately, fortunately for Shimano, I don't really have anything bad to say about this rod. The price point is amazing for what you get. The balance is great. The weight is great. The fit and finish is just ridiculous. To frog all day, the number one thing with frogging all day is fatigue. Most frog rods are too long or too heavy. You can frog and flip for hours with this thing, and it is not wrenching on your wrist because it's under 5 ounces for this rod. So great fatigue rod, gonna be able to flip and frog all day. It fits in the rod locker really well. You can throw it in your truck. So really just not a lot of bad things to say about this rod. It is a fantastic rod. It's 100% staying in my collection. It's become my emergency flipping stick when I don't have my other flipping sticks. And some days I don't even bring the other flipping sticks because I know I have this in the boat. And I'm like, if I'm going to flip, I'm just busting the 7.3 Extra Heavy out. So, okay. That being said, I'm not going to keep going on and on about this rod because I think you guys get the point. Another fantastic product from the Expride line. Shimano knocked it out of the park with these. Grab yourselves one if you haven't tried it out. And if you are still in this video and you've made it this long, please hit me up on the old Instagram, hit like and subscribe, and we will see you in the next review. Coming soon. Take it easy.